Lewis Hamilton is currently experiencing one of the most challenging phases of his motorsport career, and the difficulties faced at Ferrari are far from reaching a definitive solution. Following the British Grand Prix stage, the seven-time world champion once again expressed dissatisfaction with the characteristics of the Italian team's model, describing the machine as extremely complicated to drive. Could the British icon be going through the most difficult adaptation period of his entire Formula One journey? And even more relevant, does Ferrari really provide the adequate resources for Hamilton to return to his peak performance level? The scenario involving Hamilton at the Italian team has proven to be a complex enigma for motorsport enthusiasts. We have reached the middle of the 2025 season, with 12 races already completed, and the British competitor still hasn't found the setup that distinguished him during so many seasons. At Silverstone, the circuit where Hamilton accumulated 9 victories during his career, more than any other driver at a specific track, he achieved only 4th place, matching his best Sunday performance this season. Even having interrupted a series of 4 races being surpassed by teammate Charles Leclerc, the performance remains well below the expectations surrounding one of the greatest names in the sport's history. What makes the situation even more curious is that Hamilton has demonstrated speed during free practice sessions and even managed to outperform Leclerc in qualifying for the 3rd time in 4 recent stages. On Saturday at Silverstone, the British driver was fighting for pole position until he made a mistake in the final sector of the 3rd qualifying session, which caused him to drop to 5th position, staying just 0.2 away from pole and 0.1 from 2nd place. This shows that the potential exists, but some crucial element is preventing maximum performance extraction in decisive moments. And the issue deepens, as Hamilton's statements after the race reveal an intense dissatisfaction that transcends a simple disappointing weekend. The 7-time champion was emphatic in declaring that the Italian machine represents the most complicated car he has driven at Silverstone in recent years. Considering we're talking about a driver who has competed in more than 500 Formula One races and knows every corner of Silverstone like few others, this statement carries considerable weight. Hamilton reported that he faced enormous difficulties maintaining pace, that the compounds deteriorated drastically, and that the machine was incredibly complex to drive, especially in wet track conditions. The complication is even more significant than it appears, because Hamilton acknowledged that this was only the 2nd occasion he has driven the Ferrari in the rain, and the experience was extremely arduous. According to his own statements, he cannot even describe how difficult it was to drive the car in these circumstances. The Italian machine simply doesn't adjust adequately to wet conditions, an aspect that could be decisive in several stages of the season. Even when the track began to dry at the end of the race, Hamilton persisted in making mistakes, going off trajectory, and showing that the lack of confidence in the car continues regardless of weather conditions. The panorama becomes even more concerning when we examine the general context of the season. Hamilton currently occupies 6th place in the Drivers' Championship with 103 points, 16 below his partner Leclerc. For a competitor of Hamilton's caliber, being behind his teammate by a considerable margin is something that certainly causes discomfort. Ferrari, on the other hand, maintains 2nd position in the Constructors' Championship, but this is mainly due to the setbacks faced by Mercedes with Andrea Kimi Antonelli's modest debut and the complete collapse of Red Bull's 2nd car, which has earned only 7 points throughout the entire season. But what really draws attention in Hamilton's statements is his interest in dialoguing with the people responsible for the car's design to understand specific aspects of the Italian machine that, according to him, no one else can evaluate. This indicates that there are exclusive particularities in Ferrari's concept that are generating drivability problems that go beyond conventional setup adjustments. Hamilton, with all his experience, is identifying fundamental problems in the car's concept that may demand more substantial alterations than simple aerodynamic or suspension modifications. When asked about what he would like to achieve from Ferrari for the remainder of the season, Hamilton was quite precise in his requests. He desires consistent balance, a car that takes corners at low speed, and greater overall stability. These are essential characteristics that any Formula One driver expects from their machine, but which apparently are lacking in Ferrari's current configuration. The contradiction is that Hamilton mentioned that the team always presents good performance in free practice, maintaining good positioning, but cannot extract full potential in qualifying, and races become even more challenging. This sequence of setbacks raises important questions about Hamilton's adaptation to Ferrari's design philosophy. Throughout his career, the British driver has always been recognized for his ability to extract performance from complicated cars, but the Italian machine seems to be testing even these limits. The difference in approach between Mercedes, where Hamilton spent 15 years of his career, and Ferrari may be more significant than initially calculated. Each manufacturer has its own design philosophy, and finding the ideal balance between driver and machine can take time, sometimes more time than a complete season. The psychological aspect also cannot be overlooked. Hamilton is at a stage of his career where each season becomes more precious, and the pressure to achieve immediate results is intense. The move to Ferrari was presented as a chance to win an 8th world title, but so far reality has been quite different from expectations. The frustration is clear in his post-race statements, and this mental pressure may be influencing his performance in decisive moments, as demonstrated by the mistake in Silverstone qualifying when he was fighting for pole position. And we cannot forget that we're talking about Silverstone, Hamilton's home circuit, where he has always been practically invincible. If not even at his favorite track can he find the ideal setup with Ferrari. This indicates that the problems are deeper and more structural than initial adaptation difficulties. The British track has always been a place where Hamilton could compensate for car deficiencies with his pure skill, but this time even that wasn't enough for truly competitive performance. The question now is to discover whether Ferrari will be able to implement the necessary modifications to meet Hamilton's demands in the upcoming stages of the season. With 12 races still to happen, there is time to reverse the situation, but this will require deep understanding of the problems identified by the driver and the technical capacity to implement effective solutions. The Italian team possesses resources and knowledge to make these adaptations, but the window of opportunity is closing rapidly. Looking at the immediate future, Hamilton needs to find a way to work with the current limitations of the Italian machine while pressuring the team for improvements. His experience and detailed feedback could be fundamental in guiding the car's development, but this requires patience and a systematic approach that isn't always compatible with the pressure for immediate results in Formula One. Hamilton's ability to maintain motivation and continue fighting, even facing one of the most difficult cars of his career, will be tested in the upcoming races. The situation also raises questions about future expectations. If Hamilton is really facing the most difficult car he has ever driven at Silverstone, this suggests that adaptation to Ferrari may take longer than anyone imagined. On the other hand, the fact that he has managed to outperform Leclerc in qualifying on several occasions shows that potential still exists and that small adjustments can make a big difference in overall performance. At the end of the day, we are witnessing one of the greatest drivers in Formula One history facing one of the biggest challenges of his career. The question that remains is, will Hamilton be able to overcome these difficulties and return to the performance level that characterized him for so many years, or will this transition to Ferrari represent a more difficult chapter than expected in his illustrious career? What do you think? Will Hamilton be able to master the Italian machine, or are the problems deeper than they seem? Leave your opinion in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any analysis. About Formula One behind the scenes. Click on the video appearing on your screen because there I'll tell you how next season's technical changes could completely transform the category's scenario and which teams are best positioned to benefit from these alterations.